Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel. This is Keeping Up with Kristy, and I'm Kristy. On this episode, I'm going to be showing you how Mom and I had a little cook-off. We decided to both make salmon patties. It's something that you can use during quarantine cooking, that you can use with a canned ingredient, canned salmon. You could also use it with fresh if you had it. And we're going to show you my mom's traditional way of how she always made it me growing up, and then how I make it and tweak it a little differently. So the first thing I was making was my side dish. And so I have macaroni and cheese. So you saw me take the pot of boiling water, salt it really well, and then put in my pasta. Once that's boiled, I drain it off and let it sit to the side, and I start my cheese sauce. So my cheese sauce is just equal parts fat and flour, which is a 1/4 cup of butter, and I use salted, and then a 1/4 cup of my flour, just regular all-purpose flour. And so I put that in there and I let it cook. You want to make sure you give it time. You don't want it to burn, so keep it on medium to medium high heat and watch it. But you want to give it time to cook the flour taste out. You don't want that raw flour. Add some salt, pepper. I always add ground mustard, about a 1/2 teaspoon worth for this much, and then a few dashes of hot sauce. That's my basic cheese sauce recipe to make for mac and cheese. You can always add garlic powder. Sometimes I add Cajun seasoning, different things. Just depends on what you're having it with that night and how you want to season it up. So then I put in my 4 cups of milk. You stir it real good, crank the heat up, but stay with it. Keep close and keep it stirred, and you're just waiting for it to boil up. So once it starts to bubble good, then you're going to have thickening that is happening. And then this point, you can then turn down your heat, and you actually want to remove it from the heat once you add your cheese. So I'm just testing it here and see, is it coating the spoon good, so I know it's thickening right. And then you're going to add in your cheese, like I said, off the heat. I learned that the hard way about 15 years ago when I first started making my mac and cheese this way. Speaking of cheese, I'm using the Kraft sharp cheddar. Grated it up in my food processor, and I'm going to add it into my roux that I had made, and milk base, putting that in there, and I'm gonna just stir that in. About 15 years ago when I made this the first time, I put the cheese in on the heat and kept it boiling. I didn't know, and your cheese separates. It becomes grainy and gross. I'm using here, like you saw, freshly grated, but if you just have the stuff in the bag, that's fine too. It just has that cornstarchy flour coating, so sometimes that can make your sauce a little thicker than you like, and you might have to add some milk. Now I just put in my cooled pasta, stick that in there, stir it all up. You want it to look like, that might be a little too much cheese sauce for that pasta, but it's not, because you want it to be creamy. Because on this night I'm putting it into my baking dish, and you can see the pasta's already started soaking up that cheese sauce, which is what we want. Then I'm just going to top it with a little more shredded cheese, and then that can go in the oven to wait on us. When we're ready for our dinner to come together, we can pull it out, and it's going to be nice and warm. You can eat it straight out of the pot. I mean, don't even have to put it in a baking dish, straight from the pot, and we do that a lot of nights too. On to side dish number 2, carbs, and more carbs for this night. I know you keto-friendly people out there are going, well, this video is not for me. And it's not a keto thing. It is just comfort food, and me and Mama cooking kind of what we know. We don't eat like this every night, but once a week or once every 2 weeks, something like that. We like to just kind of do comfort food for everybody. And I don't know, probably during quarantine, we're probably doing it once a week. It just seems to help everybody at the end of the day, you know? So what I'm doing is just filling up my Instant Pot with some red potatoes. I like using those for mashed potatoes because you don't have to take the skin off. That skin's tender, and I like leaving them on there. I know some people are like, nah, I gotta peel mine. That's fine, peel them. But for us, this worked. I put them in there and just made sure I had enough water to just get to the top of the potatoes. And the best part about an Instant Pot, 3 minutes for mashed potatoes. Cool. So that's going, and then here I am onto the salmon. So I'm using 2 cans of salmon, and I've taken out the bones and the skin. I'm adding in, this is my recipe, about 1/4 of an onion and 1 celery stalk. And I just had those going in a little bit of oil on the stove just till they were tender, because they're not going to cook long enough. The salmon patties aren't going to cook long enough in your pan for that onion and celery to get soft. So you want to do that beforehand. I'm going to put in about a teaspoon to 2 teaspoons probably of Dijon mustard, and then just a little bit of breadcrumbs. I used about half of that, half cup, so that was quarter of a cup. Then I'm putting in a tablespoon of Old Bay seasoning, and then just some salt and pepper. So this is the way that I like mine. That Old Bay, the mustard, the onions and celery kind of reminds me a little bit of like a crab cake, which I like to get when I go to seafood restaurants. So it's a way I can eat canned salmon, and I like it okay. I don't want it every night, but I like it okay. I always hated salmon patties when I was a kid. Neil, however, loves them. And so this is a recipe I found, and it was a way that I could make them for me and him. Our kids won't touch them, no way. But I can make them for the two of us and him enjoy that. So I'm only adding in 1 egg. This is the difference you'll see between me and my mom when she shows you her recipe next. She doesn't have a recipe that she goes by. This is one I found. I took salmon croquettes from Paula Deen and turned it into salmon patties from when I was a kid. Just tweaked it a little bit. But this is Mom's, and she doesn't have a recipe. She just does it all by feel and what she wants. So this is what she did. She had already put in some breadcrumbs to her 2 cans of salmon. She had removed the bones and the skin as well. And then she put in 2 eggs, and then that was a 1/4 cup of all-purpose flour, and then she puts in a 1/4 cup of cornmeal. And then she just takes her hand and goes to it. She says she has to get in there and she has to feel of it. That's her words. I had to feel of it. And she has to get in there and just mush it all together, break those eggs up, and see if she needs it. And then she'll tell me if she needs something. On this night, she said, bring me another egg. So I did. And so she decided 3 eggs was what she needed. So this is another thing I wouldn't do because I don't like eggs, not a lot of them even in my binding. So, but she wanted it, and that's just how she tells. So I will put in the description box below hers and my recipe, and I'll put in there what she did on this night. But you can see hers is a lot more like a batter almost because of those eggs. But both of our salmon patties stick together just fine. So for me, I'm taking mine out with a cookie scoop, and I make small ones. Again, this probably goes back to the fact that I don't like a lot of them. I don't like to eat a lot of salmon patties even when I make them this way. So I make tiny ones. So if I just want 1 tiny one or 2 tiny ones, that's what I'll eat. And then Neil, he can have as many as he wants because the rest of them are his. But on this night, what we had decided to do was I would make my recipe my way, Mom would do hers the old-fashioned way, and then we would let everybody taste test, the 4 of us adults who eat them, and see which ones we like better. So I'll tell you at the end how that went. So here I am, just making them like little slider size, and then I roll them or pat them down into extra breadcrumbs. And I'm putting the oil into my pan. That's the same pan that I used for my onions and celery. And then I'll just brown them on both sides. I will tell you, they will brown more and faster than just rolling it in cornmeal. And my mom just puts hers through cornmeal. So they can get a lot browner on you with breadcrumbs. Those breadcrumbs will toast up more than just cornmeal. So watch those and be careful. I mean, we ate them all. It wasn't like one that got a little more toasty than the other wasn't going to get eaten. So on to Mama's. And like I said, she makes hers larger than me. And she cooks them in a little more oil than I cook mine in. And she just takes them into her cornmeal and plops them over there. So there they go. And basically, you're just wanting to make sure your egg is cooked in them. So a nice medium heat and cooking them on both sides till they're browned and your egg will be cooked. Okay, watch this. Yep. Potatoes. I've shown y'all that on the Instant Pot before. It will go everywhere. Here it comes.
Come on, rag.
Yes, I did. Throw a rag on that thing. And keep your kitchen from becoming such a mess. That helps. Okay, so take those potatoes out. Be careful, it is hot. The insert's hot, so use something to grab it. You drain them and then throw them back into that pot. The cool thing about an Instant Pot is when it's done cooking, it just goes automatically to the setting that says keep warm. So when you stick your insert back in there, it's just going to keep it nice and warm, but it's not cooking it. It's not hot. So I'm putting in a stick of butter. I'm going to use about 6 ounces of cream cheese because it's how much I had left. You can go up to 8 ounces. This is the Pioneer Woman's recipe, but I used about 6 because that's what I had. And then you just put in your salt, your pepper to season, and I put in a 1/2 cup of milk to start and kind of get them mashed, and then I'll add in more milk later. I usually end up probably adding about 1/2 cup to 3/4 total because you just want to make sure that they're creamy but not too thinned out. And we like ours on the chunky side, so we just give them a good mash with everything. But having that pot kept on warm, it just helps everything to melt. Plus you can just stick your lid on it at the end and it's waiting for you when you're ready for dinner. Those things are so yummy. I could just eat like that for dinner. So here was our whole night's worth of cooking. I had made a pound cake. It had a crack in the bottom, but no biggie. It was just us. A cake of cornbread. There's that delicious golden mac and cheese. It's one of our favorites. And the yummy skin-on mashed potatoes. And then we even made a pot of, I told y'all this was country cooking, pinto beans. Yep, so those had just been on the stovetop all day, simmering away, and there is our onion chopped up on the side. We just take that out. You gotta have your onions on your pinto beans. And then Mom's salmon patties and mine. So a verdict at the end of the meal, which patties did you like best? Well, they like them both the same. Mine tastes a little bit different because of the extra seasoning, but not a whole lot. They're very similar, I think, the old-fashioned ones and the newer ones. So there you have it. That's what we had for dinner that night. I hope you got some inspiration for what you might have this week. Try that canned salmon. It's not as bad as you think. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you soon.